Good morning. As Julie in the previous session told us, it's essential for leaders to show courage in defending their values and their companies. And so this is a great topic for us to discuss today. I just clarify, I am actually Leyla, much as I'd like to be Julie. But with me I have two great... Irene, you've organized a fantastic event, and you've managed to get two male leaders to come to a women's global summit. So I'd like to give them... So we're going to try and get to questions at the end. We saw the great interest earlier on from the audience. So I'm sure we're going to have a very good, zippy conversation, the three of us, and then we will open it up to you. To discuss these values, I have Machuel Schiebe, who's CEO of Mercedes-Benz's top-end cars division. And then I have Denis Machuel, who's the CEO of Adecco, the French recruiter. So I'd like to start with Denis to tell us how his personal values overlap with those of his companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Leyla, and good morning, everyone. It's great to see this wonderful room. And I like what Anna said about this colorful room. So in terms of values, I think all of us have values that are anchored most often in our personal history. We all have what has shaped us, right? Our education, where we come from, what we've been exposed to. Actually, personally, if I may share one, my personal values, they are anchored into my family's history. I come from a family of business and small entrepreneurs in the textile industry in a region of France. And not a big business, probably 100 people. And in the 19th century, where times were tough, the company was working, well, not with employees. You had daily workers, casual workers. They would come in the morning, then leave at night, and you would pay them every day. And in times where economy was difficult, they had tough times. My family paid the people even though they had no work. They came to work, they had no jobs, there was no work, but they were paid anyway. And that story has built my values of respecting people, of equity to a certain level. And then once I entered into the world of work, I tried to find companies that are anchored in people values, in terms in respect, in social progress. And that's how I bridged my values with the value of the companies that we're working for. I spent 16 years at Adecco. It's a large, and I ended up being the CEO. It's a large food and facilities management company, 400,000 people, with strong values that are being anchored since the beginning. And the Adecco Group is the same. The purpose of the Adecco Group is to make the future work for everyone, and it's fundamentally anchored into respect and human values.
Great, thank you. Machuel, I read that your values are somewhat more corporate grounded than the ones on the Adecco website, which are passion, collaboration, inclusion, courage, and a strong focus on putting customers at the heart of everything they do. And so I'd like to ask you how your personal values overlap with those of your companies.
Of course, first of all, thank you for having us here. So this is a great honor, and of course I was a little bit afraid. Yeah, I've never sat in front of so many female, so it's great to see you. So of course, when it comes to being a leader and leading a company like Mercedes-AMG, we are a performance car brand. We have a very strong heritage when it comes to our combustion engines. But now you know that we all have a responsibility. We need to start to decarbonize. So that also means I have to transfer the company and the team and the employees into an electric era. And so here actually I have a strong overlap with my inner purpose, because I personally think that everybody of us has a responsibility. So we need to think about our future generations. And the good thing though is actually I can, with my personal acting in the company, speed up the process towards decarbonization. And so this is something which I live up every day, because my actually inner drive is I want to make the electric high performance cars. And you know, we have among our customers, we have many, many real petrol heads. They like their V8s. But this actually keeps me and my team motivated to make future electric cars so emotional that we actually get them into this new, much more, let's say, economic, environmental friendly technology. And here, of course, you have to play all the different values, because it's about motivating the team, it's trusting the team, because in automotive industry, actually, it's like we are now developing cars that will launch or will hit the market in 2 to 3 years. So when the engineers start working on it, actually, you need to trust them that they are working on the right technologies, because otherwise, in 2 to 3 years, no customer will maybe don't want our products. So you need to give them trust that they are working on the right topics in the right way, and of course empower them to really do this. And so my values is actually, you know, giving the people the trust, and of course I want to earn the trust of my team. And at the same time, you need to have this purpose, because if you don't have that, I think nowadays, yes, as a CEO, you have an economic responsibility of the company, but you cannot motivate people anymore by just economic targets. You need to have a wider scope, and this is what we try to trigger in the team.
Great. So given all those petrol heads, how do you ensure that your values are disseminated across the company?
I think you have to live up your values. So if you expect something from your team, you have to be the role model. And so that starts like, you know, you have to speak the same words and the same language in every room that you are. So you cannot say something and act differently. So the expectation I have towards my team, and here maybe speaking about women in, let's say, the automotive industry, actually, when I took over, that was in 2023, yes, we had some female executives, but we have now increased by 40%, yeah, since 2023. How did we do that? And of course, Mercedes is a big company. Mercedes-AMG, for those who might not know, is a performance division. Yeah, so it's a smaller company, part of the big Mercedes organization. And so, yes, I could wait that female talents apply within our company, but actually, if I want my management team to increase the diversity in the team, to have more female leaders, I need to go ahead. And so I started actually to call some talents, female talents in the Mercedes organization, and I asked them if they want to join my team. And so, because then whenever someone of my team came and one of my executives and says, it's very hard to find females that have studied engineering and you know, want to work in automotive industry. Yes, there are not many. I said, yes, but this is a challenge. So you have to be attractive for them. So you have to call them and ask the best talents to join your team. And so this is how we actually get the things going.
Right. Thank you for that. Denis, tell me how you disseminate your values. Do you just tell people at interview, are you courageous and do you have passion, or how does it work?
Thank you, Leyla. And I fully agree with what you said, Michael. I think the role model piece is the beginning of the story. But it's very difficult to be a role model. It's difficult because we fail, because we have our own limitations, etc. So it started with the narrative of saying that we strive to be a role model, but allow us to fail sometimes, and show vulnerability even though you have a high ambition. That helps bridge with all your employees. The second thing is training. We developed value-based training, and training based also on not only the values but the behavior behind the values. You mentioned passion, collaboration, inclusion. courage and customer at the heart. That are our five pillars, our 5 values. But what does this mean? What does inclusion mean concretely? What does courage mean concretely? And it's training is explaining what it means and then having the conversation. So we encourage the leaders at all levels of the organization of having the conversation with their teams around what does this mean for us here? What does courage mean for us? What does passion mean for us in what we do every day? So those conversations entertain, the way values are lived. And the last thing is the performance management. So we put in place a performance management system that is not only on the what, but also on the how. So the what is, yes, the numbers, the performance, what you're talking about, performance. What exactly are we achieving? But the how is based on the values. So how do you concretely demonstrate or live the values in the way you work every day?
Great.
Yoo-hoo. I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't know he was here, but I want to bring up Ori Bjornsson. He's CEO of Algalif from Iceland, and he was voted one of the 10 most inspiring CEOs to watch. And one of the top 10 business leaders of the year by CEO Views in 2022. So Ori, come and join us. He has no preparation, doesn't matter. Go ahead and ask him questions.
So Oric joins us at the most exciting part of the conversation, which is what happens when these values collide with the outside world. We see, for example, the US administration is trying to stamp out diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and the sustainability efforts, not just of US companies, but companies that do business with the US. So I'd like to turn to Denis, maybe, to talk to us a little bit about that, and then we'll give Oric some time to settle into the conversation. Thank you.
Well, I think we've, when this came, into our landscape, there's been a variety of reactions. What I've seen for many of my peers, and what we did as well, was, well, our values are eternal. They are not linked to a context. They are not linked to a government decision. We operate in 60 countries, you imagine. There are so many different types of rulings in these countries. But our values are beyond that. So what we did was to, of course, in the US, make sure that particularly our inclusion programs were lawful. But we fundamentally said and communicated, particularly to our US colleagues, that we would remain anchored into our values of inclusion and equity. We fine-tuned a little bit the language to make sure that we were sort of facially compliant and that the whatever AI algorithm that would go through all our, because of course we were with the US government, we do 23 billion business overall, 23 billion euros of business, but in the US we do a little more than 3 billion, and we have government contracts. So we ensure that we didn't have this what could be seen as provocative words. So we adjusted a little bit, but we remained and we were vocal about how inclusive we wanted to remain as a company. And when we sent that message to all our employees in the US, this was really, really well received. And I'm also at the board of Kyndryl. Kyndryl is a spin-off from IBM, and I know Anna earlier has been instrumental in making the spin-off. And Kyndryl is a US-based, listed in New York, and Kyndryl has done the same, remaining anchored into our fundamental beliefs. And the ones who have gone out of that, it means they weren't anchored into the strong conviction that inclusion is good for society, but fundamentally is good for the business.
Very, very well put. Just maybe we go quickly to Michael to answer that question. So Adecco changed the words and reiterated the message. What would you do? What have your colleagues done in that sort of situation?
Of course, Mercedes-Benz is a company that operates in more than 150 countries around the world, and we had to, let's say, work with different situations, different legal requirements and whatever, but we have inner core values, and of course, these values, from my perspective, is also sometimes, how do you live that? Yeah, of course, you can put something on a website and you can do something, but it's like, how do you act? When I said you need to live your values, and I'm not just coming from, okay, this is our inner core value and that we support inclusion and diversity and everything, but I also see like a business reason behind that, yeah? And so for me and my company, for example, in about 12 days, we will have the first female CFO of Mercedes-AMG's history. And so, and I actually picked her because she was just the best person in the entire company of Mercedes that I could find for this job. And so here, this is also like, we want to be a successful, successful company. And then there is no question whether we do, let's say, adjust a little bit here and there, and I'm pretty convinced that she will also convince the team and everyone in the company.
So now, Ulrich, maybe we can concertina one question for you, which is, how do your values mesh with those of your company, and how would you, or how has your company dealt with similar outside pressure from governments that contradict your values?
Yes, thank you for having me here, and it's actually a very interesting question. I come from a totally different world because my company is a small startup that started 14 years ago. When I joined, we were 5, and now we are around 80, so the scale is extremely different from my colleagues up here. But I think it, in a way, has also made it all the more important to think about the values, because let's assume that I'm a total bastard and do not keep any promise or keep my word on anything. That has a big impact on a small company. You can get away with it a little bit longer if you are in a huge company. So I believe that I use the same basic methods as most other people. I believe in honesty, I believe in keeping my word. My company was at a stage quite a few times where we had to scramble to pay salaries, and I made sure that my salary was paid last, and then sometimes it was not enough, so we had to talk to few others, and that's how we make sure that let's say, the people further away from me, they always get paid, but the people closer to me, they trust me a little bit more, I hope, so I could tell them, I will pay you in 2-3 days. Things like this. This is very important for us to build the trust and to build the culture that if there is a promise, if there is a statement, then it is kept. And we have managed to do that, and we have managed to build a spirit in the company where this is kind of a cornerstone. We are also a kind of a startup, innovative company in a new sector, microalgae. We grow microalgae, and there you need to invent and discover and improve every day. We are not in an established industry, so we have to encourage mistakes. We have to encourage people to do things that most likely are not the right thing, and therefore we are not going to be screaming and yelling if somebody makes a kind of a bad mistake, at least not if he only does it once. If people repeat the same mistakes, then we are not learning very fast, but if you learn from your mistakes, then we improve and we get better all the time. And this actually I learned when I started in the pharma industry, that never to attack people for making mistakes as long as they admit that they made mistakes. This is extremely important to build trust up and down. And then if I try to answer the big question, we are a very small company. We have a turnover of $20 million now, and we are trying to grow up to 40, 50. And still we sell our product into 30, 40 countries. And our biggest customers are the US, Israel, China, and few more kind of controversial countries. We sell to Europe also, and Japan and Korea, but we need to be straightforward about what we are doing. We are not hiding that we have connections where we have them, and everyone knows it. We are also lucky that we have in Iceland a lot of immigrants now, so we have 25 different nationalities, and we have an Israeli and a Syrian guy working side by side. We have Russians and Ukrainians working side by side, so we have managed to create a culture where people value people and do not worry too much about the bigger picture, because we are not big enough for that.
Thank you. We're going to get to questions in a few minutes, so please start thinking of your question and join that non-existent queue in the middle of the room. For the moment, though, I'd like to ask each of the panelists, what is one thing that government could start doing or stop doing to help them apply their values to the real world? And this can be a government closer to them rather than across the Atlantic. Thank you. Michael.
Oh, I have a bunch of ideas. No,
Okay,
I would say I'm always a fan, to be very honest. Living in a company, and I was born here in Germany, we tend to sometimes over-regulate things. And I'm always a fan of putting incentives in place instead of imposing like duties and requesting something. Because of course, my team, if you just start to do something and you see the benefits, for example, for having more female senior executives in the company, because the company is better performing, and you just should support those role models. May it be a company, may it be a person, instead of just, requesting something by law or whatever. Of course, if at a certain point in time no change is happening, then maybe government needs to impose something and set rules and whatever. But I think sometimes we should just encourage people and maybe praise and honor and support if you have good role models, companies that are just, let's say, spearheading a kind of, movement and innovation, and give them, let's say, also the visibility and say, you are a good company because you are supporting and promoting diversity, inclusion, and the values that actually also create economic value, instead of, setting new and additional rules.
So actually, I can see two examples in both directions for Mercedes-Benz. One is the introduction of quotas to encourage the appointment of more women to the top of companies. Was that helpful?
Actually, we did it, but to be very honest, my team, and we have that for different levels where we said, okay, we want to encourage people. But what I like much more is when we started from top, and this is what I say, you need to live your values. When we started from the top to promote female executives, we started a kind of competition also within the company. Yeah, so it was like there was a little bit a war of talents within the company, and so that created a kind of movement. And so I would say, yeah, maybe this is also my background, you know, working as the CEO of a performance brand. Yes. Yeah, we are always in competition, may it be on the racetrack or having the best talents, the best executives in your team. But finally, and if you then, let's say, you filled also the pipeline with younger talents, you have a much bigger pool of executives than you can choose, or potential executives you can choose from. So this was actually, it was a start by setting some rules and targets. But actually, at the moment, I think we don't need these targets anymore, because there is already the movement in the company. And just one last point, which I also think is pretty important, and here I see also the responsibility within the company and in the companies. It does not necessarily have to be real big things. Yeah. So maybe having females within the company that are leaving because they get a child. One thing that is really important, you need to make sure that this, let's say, break does not mean you pause your career. Yeah, so once they come back, and this is sometimes also like the personal note, we have females that are just at home for a while. Even if they are not working for the company, just call them, say hello, how are you doing? We are looking forward that you are coming back in a couple of months. And when they come back, they should really have all the, let's say, framework conditions, like daycare for their children and everything, so that they can really come back and create an impact again. And so this is something where you don't need the rules, you just need to get things going and be pragmatic.
Very good. Yes, pick up the phone. Excellent. Denis, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with you, Machuel, when you said, businesses usually don't like over-regulation, but we like some level of regulation. I think it's good, because regulation also brings, I would say, when done smartly, a level playing field and good practices. And I have one regulation in mind that I think has produced good results. Even though I lead a Swiss company, I'm going to take a French example. The Copé-Zimmermann law in France that has imposed over time a balanced gender in the boards. And this has pushed, I think there was 5 years to get there, to have at least 40% of women. And this definitely has produced good results. I think it's EU Commissioner Viviane Reding who says, I don't like quotas, but I like what they do. I like their impact. And definitely this has brought, I think, very good results. And I will quote a senior partner of one of the big fours who said, because he attended so many boards, he said, I have seen conversations change in the board with the arrival of women in the board. So that's a great impact. So that's a good regulation. But I'm with you on when you said it's also about incentives. And I'm going to take a French example. We have a subsidiary in France, which is called Humando, who takes care of the inclusion of people that are very remote from the world of work. We work with refugees. We've put 30,000 refugees to work over the past 10 years. And we aim at getting to 85,000. People who, when they arrive in France, they don't speak French. They have no jobs. They have no home. And this is possible because of the passion of our people, the values.
What's the company called again?
Humando.
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 Okay.
And it's, of course, the business where we have the highest level of engagement because of how it's core, it's close to our values. And but this is possible also because the French government has put some mechanisms to partly finance some of the things that we do. So that's, for me, that's a good government incentive and not a regulation.
Excellent example. Thank you very much for that. And finally, Ulrich, before we get to our 5 questions so far.
Yeah, I'm from a small company and from a very small country, Iceland. So it's in a way easier there. We have, I believe, already reached quite a good level of equal rights and equal opportunities. In politics and government, women are at least half of everything. In companies, it is still leaning towards men, and we have this rule that if company has 50 employees, you need to have at least 1/3 of the board female. And this has helped us a lot, I believe, and it is also creating this snowball effect that you have more women that are in the bigger companies, and they become CEOs and they become managers and CFOs because of this involvement that in a way was forced. But I believe in very few years it will not be necessary to have this rule. Now we are more about integrating immigrants. We need to focus on that. We have 20% immigrants, and that's our bigger task, I believe, now.
Thank you, Ulrik. Right. We're now going to turn to questions. If you could say your name and your organization, and also who your question is for. And please keep the questions brief so we can get to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Anne Sherry. I'm from Australia, and I'm a board director in Australia. My question to the three of you really is, how much of this do you talk about either in your public accounts, your investor reports, or in your ESG reports, so that the external world can track the things that you're doing and the changes you're making, rather than talking to us here? Do you have public accountability for your diversity targets?
Very short answer, yes, a lot. No, to be very honest, yeah. If you say that, and of course, we also want to be an attractive company. We want to get the best talents, and this is not just, again, here about being accountable. It's also being attractive, and so for that reason, I also see it as an advantage. But you need to actually walk the talk, yeah. And this is, I think, what you are referring to. If you say that, you really also need to deliver then finally.
Thank you, Michael. Exemplary short answer.
Same thing. It's probably 25% or 30% of our annual report is on these topics, and we've also we're very clear, very vocal. We've also put incentive related to our executives on goals like gender parity and things like this, and we haven't given up on that.
Yeah, I can say the same, 25-30%, but the difference is that our annual report is 1 page and our accounts are 10 pages, so it's easier to reach the target.
Great, wonderful. Over to you.
Hi, my name's Dr. Mandeep Rai. I'm from the BBC World Service, and I'm the author of The Values Compass. So I cannot tell you how happy I am that this conversation is happening. It's music to my ears. I would ask, something might have happened as you guys were rising up the ranks, where perhaps a value was not present, and now you're standing for it. Which value and why? Thank you.
May I start first? It's maybe not a real value, but I really, values are changing over time. And during the COVID pandemic, I think we all learned one lesson, which is face-to-face encounters really matter. So I'm actually promoting in the company that we have a kind of return to office policy, because I think this personal relationship you cannot do on a video screen. Yes, of course, I'm also supporting, let's say, working from home, because you need to have the flexibility. But if you want to create a team culture, and this is actually not created in a meeting, this is actually made during lunch in the cafeteria, and so this creates a company spirit. So this is why I ask my executive team to return to office five days a week, because here again, if you just live it, yeah, you can also ask your team to then follow it. And so we have it not on a mandatory basis, but I'm very much in favor. And that I actually, during the pandemic, I really appreciated how good it would be actually to be back in office, to see the people faces, to speak to them personally. And so that is a value actually I would say I support very much.
I think I've seen, you mentioned values that were missing or that we, I felt that sometimes the pressure of the business has an impact on behaviors, and as you run a business, you always have pressure. And how sometimes pressure impacts, of course, the behaviors, and respect for others, respect for colleagues, respect for team members starts or may fade away. And it's our responsibility to constantly, and I've been faced with situations where respect was absent. And of course, as a leader, you have to deliver performance. So there is some level of pressure, and it's how you balance that, and how you constantly say, we can live under pressure, but respect is not negotiable. And I had, unfortunately, in my career to do some restructuring plans. And I've constantly said that we can make difficult decisions. And we make difficult decisions because it's for the good sake of the companies, to make sure that the company continues to thrive, right? Continue to have a nice future. But when you do that, you've got to do it with respect. When you do that, you have to continue to make sure that people keep their dignity, keep their self-esteem. That's critical, and that's something that I think sometimes I saw fading away. And it is constantly in my mind. And repeating again and giving examples that it's possible, even though under pressure, that you respect others.
Thank you.
Yep, I agree with both of them. I think respect is extremely important, and I strongly agree with the ethic of showing up at work and being at work. It's extremely important for team building and for better communication, and not in the meetings, but at the coffee stand and in the canteen. This is fundamental, especially for small companies.
Thank you. Next question.
Hello, my name is Natalie Sems, and I run a company called Elf Care that helps organizations, their leaders, and their people to drive commercial value through kindness. So clarity, care, recognition, and human connection. So my question to you is, to what extent have any of these values made a significant difference to you as leaders in your careers? Around kindness, does it have a place, and does it have a role in your own success?
Thank you. We'll start with Ulrich this time.
Yeah, I think I've been lucky through my life that many people have been very kind to me and willing to forgive my clumsiness and mistakes. So our current owners of the company, they have been very kind to me. Delays for years on almost everything. So I witnessed a lot of kindness, and then I try to be kind to my colleagues, and they are in a way very kind to me all the time. So kindness is a fundamental thing with trust and respect.
Well, I also believe very much in kindness. It's great when people are kind to you. I had a boss 10 years ago who was super nice, super kind. He was, of course, he was nicely demanding, and helped me grow. And what's interesting is in the archetype of leadership, kindness is not the first word that comes to mind in the historical archetype of leadership. But if you believe in leadership around empathy and values, etc., then kindness comes quite naturally to mind, and I think it's good. It's really something that that we have to cultivate.
Michael, please.
Yes, kindness here, you know, we are still a small company, yeah? Although, of course, compared to what you have, but Mercedes-AMG has now a little bit above 3,000 employees. But still, I know all of my executives until, let's say, team leader, executive team, because it's so important to know a little bit about their personal background. And it's like just calling someone because, well, you know, because maybe you know that the kid has just had an accident, and you ask, how is he doing or how is she doing? This is something which is so important. And I think here you also need to stand together as a team and sometimes do more than just the business. For example, last year we did for the first time ever, we at our, let's say, headquarters, close to Stuttgart here in Germany, we made a Bring Your Kids to Work Day. And so we invited all the parents to bring their kids on a Friday afternoon to the company. So we had 800 little kids on our headquarters.
Was that kind to the kids?
And I was very kind to the kids because there was a children cappuccino at the cafeteria. So, no, what I want to say is like, this is nothing which is in my target agreement. It does not immediately generate profit to the company, but the long-term impact, and it was not just kind to the kids, but it was also kind to the employees. Why that? Because I saw how proud the parents were when they were able to show their workplace and say what are they doing throughout the day. And so this is something I think where you just need to think a little bit different sometimes, and it's always like also the small things that matter.
Lovely story. I think we might have time for one more question. One more question, please.
Hello, my name is Gulzat. I am a businesswoman from Kazakhstan. And the question, do you think it's possible that men are afraid of losing power, and that's why real change is happening so slowly, despite all the formal initiatives?
Thank you. Right, Michael.
If men are afraid of losing power,
that's why change is so slow.
I can tell you what, here again, we're a company, we cost certain level of number of employees, and that means you have a very strong workers' council within the company. And we have meetings 4 times a year where the workers' council challenges the management team, and says, you know, what are you doing to improve working conditions and whatever. And when we started to increase, let's say, female promotions within the company, there was a lot of headwind coming from the male engineers. Why that? Because it was getting tougher for them to be promoted. We are still not at a 50% share when it comes to our promotion. This is what we are targeting at. But you need to actually enforce it. You just need to stick to it. In the meantime, it has gotten, I would say, normal. Yeah, so we are more at in a promotion level where the best person gets the job, but at the beginning it was like you needed to convince them and show it's like the best person, we call it best fit replacement. Yeah. And this is what you need to stand. And even if there is a kind of headwind, you need to enforce it. And now some of the, maybe correct me, most of the men actually see the benefit of it. And so, but you need to have this tipping point. You need to cross that, and then everything starts actually moving.
Great.
Of course they are. Of course they are afraid. But it's not because they are afraid that we shouldn't move, right? Just give you an example. When I wanted to recruit my chief digital and IT officer, I said to the headhunter, I would really want to have a female to demonstrate that it's possible to have a female in tech. So I talked to the headhunter, and the headhunter comes with a short list of candidates with 20 men and 2 women. Really? Okay, so I don't think you understood what I said. So I switched to another headhunter.
Yeah, we are in a progress in my company. When we started, we had no women working. Now about 1/3, and about 1/3 of the management team is women. So it is taking time, but we have aggressively tried to find interested women to join, and it has worked. We are soon going to be quite much like 50-50 based on this. So I think it's not so difficult.
Can I just add one thing? Because sometimes when we have those female executives, and actually we have one of our company here today, Sarah, she's sitting at the table behind in the back. Sarah is running one of our biggest production plants in Germany. And I think that some of her employees are afraid because she's so tough. And so, but I mean it in a positive way. And this is when I work together with her, it's always like, okay, she is so motivated, and sometimes actually I'm afraid of her ambition. So actually it gets me started. So I think this is what you mean when you say there is a benefit, but we need to start changing something.
Great. Thank you so much to my panel.
Thank you, and the men, don't be afraid.
Sorry, big round of applause. And to our questioners too, and our audience for being here. Thank you.